This is an NMRA-PCR Coast Division eClinic by Earl Girbovan on using computers and modeling for templates and other purposes.
So, we've talked in the past, both Phil and I on different things with using PowerPoint and Publisher to do some work. Phil had done something with using interiors. I talked a little bit about templates and measuring. So I want to go back. This is the presentation I did. Let me get it over here. The presentation I did some time ago that I built some gates for Seth Newman's module. And the gates are built out of brass. And in order to make them square in the right dimension, I made a template. And I don't draw these templates by hand. I use Publisher. So what I want to do is just show you what you can do with these programs to draw these things. They're faster to draw them with the computer, and they're a lot more accurate than trying to do them by hand. So both Publisher and PowerPoint work about the same. The commands are the same, they're just in different places. I like Publisher. I'll show you both programs on different things. The basic thing with these programs is drawing the text box. And this is a text box. On Seth's layout, the gates that I had to work with had a spacing of 3.2 inches. So I had to be pretty accurate. So what you can do is come in here and format your text box. So you can do a size. And I'm going to do it as 3.2 inches square. And then I want to have an outside line that's black. So now we've got a square. And again, it's just so much faster than trying to do this by hand. The other thing that I had is the gates had to be 1 inch tall. So we're going to come in here and draw a text box, format it. My text box is 1 inch tall, and we're going to keep it the same 3.2 inches wide. And I want to show it as a different color just for fun. So now I've got my other text box. I can move it and kind of line it up with the other one. Now this has to be 2 gates. So what we need to do is kind of cut it in half. And the easy way to do that is just to take a line and I can draw a line down the middle, even though it may not be perfectly perpendicular. And now I've got my template. Now on Seth's, I had to divide these gates in half. I know, and we're not going to worry about actual leaving gaps between the 2 gates, but if this was 3.2 inches wide here, half of that's 1.6. So if I draw another text box, size, inch tall, 1.6 wide, and we're going to make that red so it shows up. I'm sorry, I got to make it 0.8. So now I've got where the dividing post is for the gates. And if we go back for a second to this presentation, you can see that's this line here. So I drew it a little bit different than when I did this template, but I wanted to show you just how easy and how fast it is to come in here with these programs and draw these kind of things. Also, I use this all the time. Sometimes, or I had something recently where I had to make an interior wall. So, and it was, call it 4 inches wide. Again, let's go something different, just fill in the shape. And then I needed a peak that was about 1 inch tall. So we're going to put in a line that's 1 inch tall. Again, you don't have to worry too much when you're drawing it to get the right size, because you come in afterward and you can adjust things. And then I needed the roof pitch.
Earl?
Yeah.
Earl, just a suggestion. If you go back to your vertical line, click on it again and go to the size for it. Go back to your format.
Yeah.
If you go to size, you got to click on size. So you see, if you look where it says width, make the width 0, and then the line will be vertical.
Oh, okay. I learned something new. Cool. Okay, thank you.
No, it's good for everybody. Thanks.
I like it. So again, here's the other line. So now I've got a roof pitch, and I can duplicate this as much as I need. The other thing that you can do with these kind of programs is I had to do signals for Ted Stevens. We were working on his layout, and we had a whole discussion about signals and what the aspects meant and all that. So I used PowerPoint this time because that's the program he had access to make these signals. And again, it's the same kind of a thing where we can take a shape, draw a line. We can format the shape. Now here's where the difference between Publisher and PowerPoint. The menu comes up over here for the different things. So my line, again, you can play with line width. So I'm going to line width of 5, and this is a metal signal post. So there we have our signal post. So now we need to put in the background. And again, here's an oval. Don't have to worry too much about the size, because we can come in here and make it 0.4. This way it comes out to be a circle. And then we want to fill it with black. Not that, I just want to do this. Fill it with black. And now we have our kind of a little background thing. And you see this other line that comes up across here as I move this. PowerPoint and Publisher will help you line things up, which is really nice. And then you can kind of move this over so it's a little more centered. And then we want to have the colored insert, so we'll do another circle. And we don't care what size initially. Call it 0.2. And we're going to fill it with, let's make it a nice green signal, and come in here. And without spending a lot of time trying to tweak things to line up exactly, you can see that we've got signals. So right now, if you look at this thing, it's made up of 3 different pieces. And if you try to move things, you really can't move things because they're not grouped. If you look at like this signal, it shows up as one item that I can move around as a whole. And that's this whole thing called grouping. And Phil, I'm forgetting where grouping is in here because I don't use it that much. Oh, here it is. So
Right below there.
These are all grouped together. You can come in here and ungroup it. And now I can edit things individually. And then when I'm done, I can group it. So just to show you, you can see this is made up of 3 different items. If I select them all, I can group it, and I can move this whole thing wherever I want to move it.
And Earl, click on that. Click on the green. Notice the green isn't quite lined up. Click on it. Just click now. One click there on the green. No, click on the green. Now use your arrow and move it a one click to the right and one click down. So you can actually move within the group. You can select an item, move it around. Now when you unclick, it'll stay where you left it.
Right.
So you can actually edit a group thing. You can move stuff around within, if you see, without ungrouping it, moving it, and regrouping it. So it makes it easier to edit it.
The other nice thing, if you have a bunch of these things in here, let me group this again. Let's see what we got. If you have a number of these things in here and they're all kind of funny and not lined up, there's an alignment program that you can, and it's not going to work because I don't have them grouped properly, but it'll automatically space these out the same and line them up for you. So there's some really nice things buried in here to do other things than just, you know, draw templates and things like that. The thing that I'm working on is some documentation for my electrical for MMR. And you can see here, this is a drawing I'm doing for the electrical. And, you know, you can hand do these sketches. It's okay. You know, the judges don't get that carried away, but I find it a little bit easier as opposed to creating things sometime to put pictures in. So what you can do, and I think Phil showed this and we talked about it a little bit, you can go to the web and find a picture or an image. So this isn't one of the circuit breakers, PSX, that I've got in here. This is the raw image from the web, and it's kind of too big, so you can come in here, crop it, grab the corner, kind of crop that out because we don't need all this other stuff. So now I've got just a small little box.
So for those of you that are not computer people, just understand what Earl did. That was a picture, and by cropping it, if you go back and click on it again and click, it's actually there, the whole picture, but by cropping it like that, it's only showing you that part. So you can decide what part you want to show, and it's a really cool way to take things from the web and reuse them.
And also, once you crop it, you don't have to worry about the line you're trying to draw to it get swamped out by the image, right? Because the image is now only this big. So you can come in, grab these things, rotate them 90 degrees, scale it down to whatever size you need, and then, you know, put it in here. And that's where all these images came from. So I hope that, you know, this helps a little bit. Again, I use this all the time for drawing templates when I'm working on structures. If I need a wall, if I need something, it's accurate. And it's just so much faster than trying to do it by hand. And the nice thing, all these things come out square. I try to draw this stuff by hand and they're never square. We talked, I just want to cover one other thing on this. You can play with these line widths. And this is kind of default line width. You can go wider lines if you need. The outside dimension is what stays. The thing doesn't grow when you do it. And I want to leave you with one picture again. So you guys know that I go to Shorpy a lot. And I showed this picture last time. This is a picture of downtown Pittsburgh circa 1940. And I kind of was looking at it, and it was interesting that there was this little sand facility down here in the bottom right corner. I thought that's kind of interesting. And yeah, I'm working on the layout. We needed some sand things. So I thought, yeah, let's go take a look at it. And I was looking at all the sanding things and the tracks, and I noticed the turntable. And you take a look at the pit, and I haven't seen this before, is the pit walls are not continuous. There's an arc over here. Yeah. There's an arc over here and an arc on this side, and the rest of the wall is just dirt. So they never really fully formed the pit walls. I guess they didn't need them. And it's interesting, this is in downtown Pittsburgh. It's not some narrow gauge line somewhere out in the boonies. And again, this website, shorpy.com, is a Library of Congress website. If you subscribe to them, which doesn't cost anything, they send out a picture or two or three every day. They're just old time pictures. So you got to read through them, but you know, there's enough gems that come in with with railroading that it makes it interesting. So with all that, Phil, back to you.
Thanks, Earl. Why don't I go ahead and open it up? We'll open it up. Are there any questions for Earl? Comments? Again, I think it's just a great tool for so many things we do to be able to do it. I'll show some more printed stuff at some point in the future.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah. Earl, the doing it on the screen and that sort of stuff is real straightforward. Do you have any problem printing out the final, call it the final draft, if you will, or the final plan? Do you have to adjust your printer in any way?
Nope. No, it all comes out exactly the dimension you drew it. There's no scaling or anything like that. That's kind of the nice thing as opposed to like SketchUp or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the cool thing is that I think those applications translate that into DPI and they give that to the printer, and the printers are designed for 300 DPI. So literally they're manufactured to that. So if you print a line 300 dots long, it's going to be an inch long by the physical design of the printer. And so I think it's kind of all tied in, becomes, for our work, pretty reasonably accurate. So,
you know, I printed these at my home computer at the office printer. You know, I have no problem. The sizes are always identical. And, you know, I'm not saying that this is a replacement for SketchUp or something like that, but for simple squares and simple shapes, this is what I use Publisher for the most in model railroading, is drawing these templates so I can build things square.